I love that I'm being
Okay, hi there. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm Ron.
We've already said hello, but it's good to see you again.
Hi.
We've already said hello this morning, but it's good to see you again. Awesome. Hi, John.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. Hey, how are you? Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this sunny day to talk about something that's not quite as sunny. Since the Trump administration fired thousands of VA staff and undermined access to critical services, my office, along with Congresswoman Craig's office and Senator Smith's office, have been receiving phone calls and messages from veterans across our state who are concerned that they are going to lose their benefits and that they're not going to get the kind of services that they have expected and should expect to get from the VA. Compounding that is the fact that there have been some cuts to the burn grant program, which Minnesota played a critical role in that the veterans here were very active in that early on. They were some of the veterans that slept on the steps of the Capitol when that bill wasn't passed. They brought the idea to me, and I introduced the first bill on this, and they're very focused on this. And so that is part of the issue as well. So we are here today to stand up for veterans throughout Minnesota and across the country who served our country and now rely on the VA for care. I want to start by thanking this incredible group of leaders who are gathered here in addition to Senator Smith and Representative Craig. Jacob Romans is with us, a registered nurse at the Minneapolis VA Medical Center. John Helcl, a veteran and former VA employee. Stephen Whitehead, former National Commander of Disabled American Veterans, and Lisa Thomas with Dakota County Veterans Service Office. We are also joined by leaders from the Department of Minnesota Veterans of Foreign Wars, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, Minnesota, and the Disabled American Veterans of America, and the group Save Our VA. These advocates know when our service members sign up to serve our nation, there isn't a waiting line. And when they come home to this country and they need help from the VA, there should never be a waiting line. There should never be a delay. More than 9 million veterans rely on the VA for care, including 106,000 right in Minnesota. But right now we are witnessing an attack on the care and benefits that these veterans deserve. This administration has already fired more than 2,000 VA workers, and they say they plan to fire more than 80,000 staff by the end of the year. Let me repeat that, 80,000 staff. We know that because of court intervention, because of the Constitution and the law, some of those 2,000, we don't have the exact number, are probationary employees who, due to righteous lawsuits, are being brought back to work across the government. But we don't know when they're reinstated. We also don't have the exact numbers for how many are in Minnesota. But we do know that one of these workers is John from our state. He is a veteran and a former law enforcement officer. After a decade in the private sector, he took a pay cut in order to accept a job at the VA. After just a month, he was notified that he would lose his job because of the firings. The administration fired John and other VA employees without regard for merit. Either they did not consider how these firings would hurt the veterans who rely on the VA, or they did not care. Earlier this month, we learned that the administration is not done. As I noted, they've said they're going to fire 80,000. And as Elon Musk, who is an unelected bureaucrat, is making these decisions, the leaders at the VA seem to just simply be acquiescing and going along with them. What does this mean for our veterans, which is really what is key here? Well, it means nurses and staff who process their benefits. We know from our offices there's often confusion in good times about VA benefits. It's not always easy. How many years you have served, when they kick in, what they are exactly, where you can go if you don't have a VA hospital near you. If there are not people to answer those questions, when we field those questions, we try our best. We call the VA, we have people we call, and we get answers. Sometimes people go directly to their service officers across the state. What else does it need? At a time when we know that one of the signature illnesses coming out of these last wars has been mental illness, it would mean less help for people who are suffering from mental illness, and we know what an issue suicide has been with our veterans. It means unraveling so much of the progress we've made in recent years since the Walter Reed fiasco to upgrade our veterans' health care. Last week, along with 21 of our Senate colleagues, we introduced legislation to put veterans first, reinstate those veterans who have lost their federal jobs, and protect veterans' data from DOJ. The administration actions have already created uncertainty, as I noted at the beginning, of veterans who have benefited from the PACT Act. That's the one involving the burn pits. That law finally provided access for care for more than 1 million veterans that have been exposed to toxic burn pits during their service. The recently passed bill, the resolution, the continuing resolution, which is only in for 6 months, that all three of us opposed, involved cuts to that toxic burn pit funding, significant cuts. Yesterday, I thought about this when I was in Preston, Minnesota at the State Veterans Cemetery. There we honor 1,455 veterans and their families. I have a beautiful place to go to honor them. It is our sacred obligation to honor these vets, not just when they pass away, but when they're alive. Not just when they're serving in battle, when we get them the equipment that they need, but also when they come home to our country. Looking out for men and women who have served is not a red issue or a blue issue. It is an American issue. So we call on our Republican colleagues in Congress to stand up and to join us in opposing the cuts to the VA. And with that, I turn it over to my great colleague, Senator Smith.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much to Senator Klobuchar, and thank you, Representative Craig, for organizing this event and bringing us together. So Minnesota is home to 265,000 veterans. These are our brothers and our sisters, our moms and dads, and our neighbors. They risk their lives to serve our country with distinction. And in return for that service, they earn health care through the Veterans Administration. And great organizations like the Disabled American Veterans and the Dakota County Veterans Services Office work every day to advocate for vets and to make sure that they have access to the care that they deserve and have earned. And the dedicated and hardworking public servants, like the members of the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE Local 3666. Do I have that number right? I think 3669. These are the line workers that deliver that care. Now, this system is not perfect, but it is rooted in the promise that veterans deserve health care, and it is our obligation to provide it. That promise and that obligation is being trashed by President Trump and his lead architect for destruction, Elon Musk. And that's why we're here today. Over the last 2 months, Elon Musk and Donald Trump have gone about firing the very people who make the Veterans Administration work. And that's hurting Minnesota, it's hurting Minnesota veterans, and it's hurting our whole country. They have fired thousands of people at the VA, and you'll hear from one of them, John, today. And as Amy said, they have plans to fire over 80,000 more people. And these are the folks that answer the phone and connect vets to their doctors and appointments and process the labs and do the physical therapy and mental and behavioral health care. They do everything that veterans need to get healthy and to heal and to be able to live their most productive lives. And Donald Trump and Elon Musk are firing them. And to make matters worse, many of the public servants that they are firing, 25% of them are veterans themselves. These are people who take jobs for less pay and more stress because they want to give back. And this is how they are being treated by Musk and DOJ and President Donald Trump. For years, we know that the Veterans Administration has been understaffed, and when Congress passed the PACT Act to make sure that veterans exposed to toxic burn pits could get health care without going through a lot of red tape, we knew that this would increase the need for help at the VA, so people don't need to wait months and months for treatment. And around Minnesota, I can tell you, people are asking why. Why is Donald Trump and Elon Musk, why are they doing this? And they are figuring it out. This has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. They are taking away veterans' health care to pay for big giants tax giveaways for Elon Musk and other wealthy people just like him. My office has gotten hundreds of thousands of calls, literally hundreds of thousands of calls about what President Trump and Elon Musk and Republicans are doing, and Minnesotans are not happy. And so I'm here to say clearly, I stand with these people. I stand with Minnesota veterans and not the billionaires. And we are going to fight this. We are going to fight them dismantling the VA. We're going to fight them dismantling the health care with all of the tools that we have. So thank you very much for paying attention to this issue, and I am so glad to stand here with my colleague, Representative Angie Craig, who is such a fierce fighter for veterans in her district and all over the country.
Well, thank you so much, and welcome to Dakota County and Minnesota's wonderful 2nd Congressional District. On behalf of Senators Klobuchar and Smith, I want to thank Jacob Romans, Stephen Whitehead, John Helcl, and Lisa Thomas for joining us in particular today. I also want to acknowledge all the veterans who are here in attendance, as well as the people at Dakota County who work to help our veterans every single day. Thank you for your service to our nation's veterans. We're here today to stand united for veterans from Minnesota and across the country who were impacted by the administration's reckless cuts at the VA. The Department of Veterans Affairs is a nonpartisan agency responsible for delivering care and benefits to our nation's veterans, or so it should be. Unfortunately, this administration seems hell-bent on executing its partisan agenda in the most incompetent way possible. Unelected billionaire Elon Musk has made it abundantly clear that he has no interest in making targeted cuts to increase efficiency, to stop waste, fraud, and abuse in any meaningful way. They just want to reduce spending so they can pass tax cuts for their friends. They've closed their eyes and taken a sledgehammer to the federal workforce, instituting across-the-board cuts that have nothing but jeopardize Minnesotans' access to critical services. The way they are going about this is concerning, but it's particularly disturbing when it comes to the VA. Veterans rely on the VA to access life-saving health care and mental health services, and to deliver the benefits that they have deserved and earned over a lifetime of service to our country. Make no mistake, slashing the VA workforce by 80,000 employees will impact veterans' access to health care. Not to mention, more than 25% of those who work in the VA are veterans themselves. These are Americans who bravely served this country and chose to return to public service and an act of service to fellow veterans. Many are combat veterans who have come back changed, some with physical disabilities and others with mental health challenges like PTSD. But they have found new purpose in their work at the VA. Now, an unelected billionaire and a man who ran from military service to our nation is trying to take that away. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. This is not a political issue, and it's not how we treat people who have served our great nation. These workforce cuts fly in the face of our nation's veterans, their families, and every American who has benefited from the sacrifices our service members have made to protect our freedoms. Regardless of what happens with the court order, a federal judge ruled last week that these cuts are not only wrong, but they're illegal. If we are serious about honoring our commitment to Americans' veterans, if we are serious about ensuring that they get the best possible care, if we are serious about repaying the cost of war, We will fight back against this administration's blatant disregard for those who have served, and we will stand proudly with Minnesota veterans at every opportunity. So again, thank you for being here today. Together, we can stand up against this administration's affront to our nation's veterans. It's our turn to fight for those who have put their lives on the line to keep us safe and free. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Jacob Romans, a registered nurse at the Minneapolis VA and a proud member of AFG. Thank you for being here, Jacob.
Thank you, Representative Craig, for letting me speak, and it's my pleasure to see both of the senators as well. And I want to thank you for all voting no on the CR. I began my public service career at the Minneapolis Veterans Home as a food service worker. After I received my nursing license, I got my dream job at the Minneapolis VA. Both of my grandfathers were veterans who served during World War II. My brother served in the Army and was deployed to Iraq during Iraqi freedom. I have always believed in serving our veterans because they have sacrificed their lives for the safety and benefit of our country. There has been a substantial growth of VA employees over the last few years. But why? Because of the PACT Act, which provided increased health care benefits for veterans who were exposed to toxic chemicals during their deployment. Since 2022, 740,000 veterans have signed up for VA healthcare, which is a 33% increase in just 2 years. It is not sustainable to see more veterans while also losing 20% of our staff. The 80,000 jobs proposed to be cut are all essential to the mission of serving our veterans. What's worse, many of the employees who will be terminated are veterans themselves. In fact, about 30% will be terminated are veterans. We have already been experiencing extreme staff shortages at the Minneapolis VA. Nursing in particular, where we are being mandated to work 16-hour shifts just so veterans are cared for. When the first layoffs happened in February for probationary employees deemed non-essential, the Minneapolis VA lost at least a dozen employees, many of whom were veterans. In fact, one of them was a 100% disabled veteran. Another employee was a researcher and helped secure funding for various studies that sought to treat PTSD, kidney disease, alcohol use disorder, and many more. If we do not have the funding to conduct this research, we may be missing out on life-saving treatments that have yet to be exposed. If we are to resist this attack on veterans and their health care, we must recognize the problem. An unelected billionaire bought his way into our government and is destroying the very idea of American values. Our veterans did not risk their lives to protect our country, only for it to be dismantled from within. The plans to cut the federal workforce are a slap in the face to our veterans who have more than earned the right to quality health care. This effort to privatize the VA will not be tolerated by VA employees, nor should it be tolerated by the veterans we serve. While choice in healthcare is essential in getting all of our veterans cared for, it should not be the only choice. Studies have shown that wait times in the private sector are just as long at the VA as they are in the private sector. Privatizing the VA will hurt veterans because studies have shown that the VA provides the best health care to veterans. Please do not be fooled by the false narrative that the private sector is better, because it's not, and we have the receipts. Veterans are being doubly impacted by the hollowing of government programs and agencies. Now that the spending bill has passed, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid will be slashed. I know many people who rely on these programs. So not only is our government trying to get rid of the VA, it appears to be gutting essential programs that have benefited millions of Americans, including veterans, throughout the years. I'm asking you all to help the employees at the VA to resist this blatant coup of our government and stand in solidarity with the federal workers who are just trying to help our fellow Americans. Please come to our rally across the street from the VA hospital next Wednesday at 11. If we do not fight against this now, we may never have the chance to fight it in the future. We are at a pivotal moment in American history. Which side do you want to be on? Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Stephen Whitehead.
Also known as Butch.
Also known as Butch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. And I also want to echo to both senators and Representative Angie for inviting me and the DAV to be here today and speak on behalf of the disabled American veterans and the million members that we represent, and talk about how concerned we are about the actions that are being taken right now that are going to affect our veterans across the nation, here in Minnesota, but across the nationwide. When we talk about the great work that our elected officials have done by passing the PACT Act and getting millions of veterans now eligible for health care that they have earned, to be able to get the benefits that they have earned, and now we're hearing about up to 80,000 veterans, 80,000 employees being laid off. We don't want to go back in time. Go back and we had all these backlogs on our benefits where people are waiting 4 or 5 years to get their claims approved. Veterans waiting 6 months, a year to see their doctor. We can't stand for that. And the DAV, we are fighting tirelessly day in and day out. Just as the senators and representatives said, our office is ringing daily. Dozens and dozens of calls here in Minnesota alone, hundreds of thousands across the state, across the country, of veterans concerned. Because we're not hearing anything. Nobody in this administration is telling us what their plan is, why they're doing it. We represent millions of veterans across our nation. We hear from them day in, day out. It is pivotal that this administration reaches out to the veteran service organizations and hear our voice. We can tell them firsthand what needs to happen, how they can truly take care of veterans to the best of their ability. So for the administration not reaching out, and we try tirelessly day in, day out to reach out to the administration, to the secretary. We had the secretary of the VA come and speak to us at our midwinter legislative conference here end of February, and he point blank said, veterans first. Well, when we're hearing about all these big changes coming to the VA, not only on the benefit side, but the healthcare side, we're very, very concerned of how that message is not going to be received. How are they saying that they're putting veterans first when all we're hearing is cuts, cuts, cuts? We need to stand up for our veterans to make sure that each and every one get the benefits that they've earned. So thank you to the senator, to the representative for inviting the DAV. We stand here to fight for each one of these veterans to make sure that they do not lose their benefits, that they don't lose their health care, and that they get the benefits that they have earned by being that servant leader that signed on that dotted line, or were voluntold, thinking of our Vietnam veterans that didn't get an option, but they got told that they're going off to fight for a country, and now to have this actions be taken on them. We can't stand for that, and we need to make sure that our voices are heard. So I encourage all of you, especially those that are affected by this, please go to the DAV.org, protect veterans, and share your story. We want to hear how these changes are affecting you, so we have the ammunition that we need to stand up for you, because we will stand and fight tooth and nail to make sure that you're taken care of. So with that, I'd like to invite John Helcl up here to share his personal story, how he as a veteran has been affected by this. Thank you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress, and fellow Americans, I stand before you today not just as a veteran, but as a voice for those who cannot or dare not speak out. Many veterans are affected by these actions remain silent, some out of fear of reprisal or blacklisting, others because they continue to uphold the discipline of focusing on a mission regardless of the politics. But I've been given this opportunity, and I am duty-bound to speak on their behalf, more so as a chaplain and as a person who is neither a Republican or a Democrat. Providing comprehensive veteran services and ensuring employment opportunities for veterans is not a partisan issue, it is an American issue. Those who have sacrificed for this country, often to their own detriment, deserve the unwavering support of the nation they served and the government that made them promises. Yet the recent actions of this administration have undermined that commitment. The terminations disproportionately targeted frontline employees, veterans working in direct service roles, rather than the administrative and leadership positions the administration claimed to be reducing for cost-saving measures. This decision did not trim excess. It cut into the very foundation of veteran support. I know this firsthand. I accepted a position as an employee and labor relations liaison at the VA Debt Management Center, taking a 40% pay cut to base salary. After nearly a decade of conducting private sector workplace investigations following my law enforcement career, I made this my sacrifice to apply my expertise in service to those who had served our country. My role involved investigating employee misconduct and underperformance, implementing corrective actions ranging from verbal counseling to termination. I performed these duties for the one and only division within the United States Department of Veterans Affairs that operates entirely on self-generated revenue. In other words, my work contributed to cost savings within a federal program that required no taxpayer dollars, meaning I was actually a financial net positive for the VA and the federal government at large. On February 14th, while on leave for a funeral, I was informed by text and phone call that my employment had been severed. My access was immediately terminated, and it left me unable to even read my termination email until weeks later. The justification cited in my termination email aligned with the same reasons recently exposed through public and media sources. I, along with approximately a dozen other new hires who just started a month prior at the Debt Management Center, many of whom were on terminal leave from the military or were just transitioned into their first civilian job. We were all removed without any legitimate evaluation of our performance. These were highly motivated and skilled employees, some of whom had achieved promotions within the last year, only to be unceremoniously cast aside. Let me be clear. As a career investigator, employee relations practitioner, and relentless advocate of fair and equal employment practices, there is no reality in which 1 month is sufficient to assess an employee's performance, especially not the highly skilled veterans entrusted to these roles. And now, many of us still lack the separation documentation required to apply for unemployment benefits, leaving families who have already sacrificed so much struggling. Veterans seek these roles for stability, for purpose, for a path to heal, and a chance to prosper. If these terminations are upheld, and even if legally mandated corrective actions are taken, the damage has already been done, the trust has already been shattered. The administration has already signaled another wave of layoffs, ensuring that even those reinstated remain in fear of their future. But let us not be mistaken. This is not just about veterans. This is about the rule of law, our principle that every individual, organization, and government entity is accountable under law. The laws are applied equally and fairly, and that no one is above due process. A failure to ensure due process for one group of citizens is a disservice to all citizens. If it can happen to the veteran community, it can happen anywhere, at any time. Some in the administration have stated that veterans do not want to work or have demonstrated by their actions veterans do not deserve robust care. This sentiment is an affront to every service member who has put their life on the line. Veterans bring discipline, leadership, advanced training, and an unparalleled sense of duty. To discard them so carelessly is both a strategic and a moral failure. While I understand the need for fiscal responsibility, this is not responsible governance. A government that claims efficiency by discarding its most capable and dedicated workers is like a doctor who claims to have cured the disease by euthanizing the patient. So today, I call upon Congress, hold this administration accountable. Ensure that those who served this nation are not abandoned when they seek to continue their civilian roles. And to the American public, I say this: let your voices be heard. Demand that those in power honor their commitments to our veterans, because if we allow this injustice to stand, we fail not only our veterans, but the very principles we claim to uphold. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome to the podium Lisa Thomas from Dakota County Veteran Services.
Great job.
Thank you, Senator. Much obliged.
Thank you. That was great.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to welcome veterans, service members, families of veterans, advocates, and allies to the veteran community. Thank you for being here. Isn't this building beautiful? I am so proud to be a Dakota County employee. Again, my name is Lisa Thomas, and I'm the Director of Veteran Services here at Dakota County. And I'm here to tell you that you've heard from a lot of advocates in this room, but your biggest advocate is standing right here. County Veteran Service Offices. Each county is mandated by the state to have a veteran service office. What do? We do everything for veterans. We are the first stop for veterans that need support. We are highly trained. We are all veterans ourselves. I myself served for 28 years in the Army National Guard and the Air Force Reserve, and all my staff have served very impressively as well. So just a quick overview of what we do. If you're a veteran that needs help, maybe you got hurt or injured on active duty or service, you come see us. Are you a veteran who's aging and needs help with care, whether in the home or in a facility, you come see us. Do you need help with employment, which we're hearing might be a thing that's happening? We have a veteran employment rep who staffs out of our office every Thursday. Do you need help with financial support? We know where to catch the best financial resources for veterans. So in other words, staff are highly trained, they're veterans, so they get it. When you come in our office after having served, no matter how frustrated you are with systems or the military, we get it. We experienced it. We went through it. We are your biggest advocates. So what I want you all to do, if you haven't, is get on MACVSO, which is our association, the Minnesota Association of County Veteran Service Officers, and you can look at every office and see the staff in every county. Know those phone numbers, put those in your phone. Whether you're a veteran or not, you're all advocates, so if somebody says, I don't really know who to talk to, you should be able to pull that number out or show them that site, and they should know how to access their veteran service officer. And that's all I have to say. Give us a call, come see us. We love our veterans. They're our people, they're our community, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks. Okay.
Senator Smith, you had said that you're getting hundreds of thousands of calls from
You mean
Minnesotans.
everybody?
That's not all veterans, right?
No, I'm saying those are the number of calls that I have gotten into my office over the last, 6 weeks or so. It's an unprecedented level of outreach that, to give you an idea, on an average day before Donald Trump and Elon Musk, we might have gotten 100 calls a day. One day last week, we got over 4,000. That's what we're dealing with.
Not all veterans. That's what-
Yeah.
And I get it, but are the veterans that are calling to alert you to concerns, are they calling about stuff that they worry is coming down, or stuff that's happening right now?
So I'm talking about the Minnesotans that are calling who are concerned about everything that is happening. And you understand that. And many calls from veterans who are concerned about getting access to health care, veterans who are employees of the federal government and are losing their jobs or are worried about losing their jobs. They are basically saying, who in this administration is standing up for me? I don't see anybody.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things they know, and I mentioned some of the constituent calls we get from veterans, is these can be very complicated questions they have about their benefits and health care. And they need actual people to talk to. You can't deal with a chat line when you're talking about your service in Korea many years ago or your service in Iraq. You need to actually be able to talk to a person to go through things. And their concerns, yes, about people who have been let go, or they themselves are worried about it if they're employees, but there are a whole bunch of veterans that are starting to see what's coming down the pike. And at the same time, you see these cuts to Medicaid, you see some of the other things that are on the chopping block, cuts to Social Security and other things that are also concerning them. So that's why we're getting so many calls into our office. And by the way, my husband teaches law. One example that I'm never going to forget the rest of my life, he had a student who had spent decades diffusing bombs for the Army. He then went to law school and put his all into law school to work at the VA. He got a job at the VA 2 years ago under Secretary McDonough, and he got also fired like John with just a month to go before his probation period ended. So he will most likely, he's also disabled, be rehired or has been rehired. I don't know that, but he's not going back because of how they treated him. So you not only, even if people are rehired, you're going to lose a bunch of really good people that are so angry about how they've been treated, or they find something because this seems insecure as an employment job, that you're gonna lose some excellent people even before they're rehired.
Senator Klobuchar, you voted for the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins' confirmation, even after it was clear that the Trump administration was going to slash the size of the federal workforce. You've continued to vote to confirm Trump's cabinet members.
It's not. I voted against the vast majority of them.
7, and Chavez DeRemer, last week. Do you regret those votes?
I voted against Pam Bondi. I voted against the entire Justice Department slate except for the antitrust person, who actually also got the support of Elizabeth Warren. I voted against Homeland Security. I voted against the number one. When it came to the Veterans Administrator, I talked to him. I asked him questions. I'm going to continue to push at him. And one of our jobs is to try to figure out, with each and every vote, do we want someone in between Elon Musk and the employees? In this case, so far, this guy has stood up at a cabinet meeting by reports. Collins opposed what Elon Musk said. These are just news reports, along with Duffy and Rubio at a cabinet meeting. Just if you could let me finish. And I have always believed, while these are not the people I would put in by any stretch of the imagination into these jobs, that at times you need someone between a president like Donald Trump and the employees. So it's individual determinations. It's very hard as you look at each one. But I've actually voted against the majority of them, the vast majority of the nominees. If you look at the numbers, we'll get them to you later.
Do you regret your vote for Collins?
I will assess that as time goes on, but clearly he is not standing up to the degree that he should.
You mentioned the continuing resolution. Obviously, the party seems split over what Leader Schumer should have done. Is he still the person that should be leading the party in the Senate?
Leader Schumer and all of us made a very difficult decision because we had to decide, a little different than the House that had to make the decision on do we like this budget or not. Of course we didn't. Senator Smith and I both were a firm no on that. But then we had the issue about whether we should shut down the government. And that was why some of our colleagues voted a different way. And anyone that says it was really, really an easy decision, I don't think it's an easy decision. I had some views of how we could have proceeded in a different way, and I voted no. But the point is when you really look at what's going on here, in any of these decisions, including the firing of these employees, including the budget, if 4 Republicans in the United States Senate would stand up, it would be different. Every single one of these decisions would be different. If 3 Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives would stand up, every single one of these decisions would be different. So I look at the 3 of us standing up here, advocating for our veterans, standing up for our veterans, and I see a clear difference between our Republican colleagues who no longer see themselves as representatives of the people, but instead as subjects to a king, going every single way he asks them to go.
May I ask, I'm hearing very squishy numbers, 12, about a dozen. I mean, that's kind of, we've had a couple months of this. Have any of your offices received specific data on how many positions are cut and how many will be cut? And why not, if you don't have that?
That's a really good question, isn't it?
Have you asked?
Yeah, of course we've asked.
Okay.
The administration will not give us those numbers. The administration is withholding those numbers even from our Republican colleagues. And to me, it is most disappointing that I have Republican colleagues in the United States House of Representatives who will not stand up and push back. I don't care who you voted for in the last election. I believe many of you who voted for Donald Trump and this administration, this is not what you voted for. You didn't vote for this administration to cut 83,000 veterans from the Veterans Administration. You did not vote for Donald Trump and this administration to tank the U.S. economy. You didn't vote for that. So what I would say to Americans who voted for this administration and to my colleagues who happen to be in the same party as this administration, that you need to speak out if this is something that you don't want to see happen in our country. That doesn't make you someone who is disloyal. That makes you an independent thinker who can watch what's unfolding in our country and do what you think is right for America. The only way any of this changes, because we're going to stand up and we're going to speak out and we're going to push back and we're going to ask for those numbers, but the only way any of this changes, and we're coming to you now because they have not laid off 83,000 folks from the VA yet. We're standing before you today because we want your help, Minnesota. We want your help, America, to stop them. That's what we need.
Senators, Congresswoman, do we know how many of the 2,400 that were in the first wave are from the Minnesota VA or Minneapolis?
Again, we've all requested this information. We've heard news reports of over a dozen. We get different numbers. Our office has called. I know that Senator Smith and Congresswoman Craig has tried, but we don't know the exact numbers. And also, we don't know then how many have been rehired. We assume, and I just asked John this question, that's why I went back there to ask him, we assume that people who were fired because they were in the probationary status in this Valentine's Day massacre, as they call it, that they have been now, because of the court order, rehired. But if some of them are locked out of their emails, they can't even access that information, as he just told me, so they don't even know if they're rehired.
I met with a veteran yesterday. He has no idea if he's
Right. And that is my guess, if I had to guess, as you do every day with this administration, that they are in the course of rehiring them, and they're going to have to call in to find out if they're rehired in their local offices, which is ridiculous. But over time, then we will learn if they've all been rehired. But they have said they're complying with that order.
The Department of Veteran Affairs has been listed under the Government Accountability Office's list of high-risk agencies for fraud, for waste, for a number of years. So clearly it's been identified, even going back to the Obama administration, it needs reform. So where or how can the VA be reformed, but not this way?
Well, let me just point out, as we heard from John here, I mean, if Elon Musk and these Doge boys were actually interested in reforming the VA, would they go in and get rid of the person whose job it has been to root out problems that actually save the VA money? And what we're seeing across the administration and a variety of other agencies is the same thing. They are getting rid of the people that are there for accountability, the whistleblowers, the people that are there, the inspectors general. And so I think we have to be clear about what they're actually doing here. They're dismantling the accountability systems. They're dismantling the anti-fraud operations in these agencies. They're not trying to strengthen them in any way.
We have time for just one more.
Can I ask a question for John then? Because Senator Klobuchar raised a scenario of someone being so angry that they wouldn't want to come back. If you get a chance to come back, will you go back?
It's a great question.
Fair warning, I'm off script. That would require a bit of a conversation, but I'm in a position where I don't have to. And as somebody who, again, had a career in law enforcement, going back into an abusive relationship is always a bit tricky. I would have to say at this point, likely, less likely than so, but I don't take anything off the table at any time.
Thank you very much.
Senators, you guys,
Thank you.
wanted to talk about avian flu in southern Minnesota. Could you talk a
we
little
are.
bit about what do you think Minnesota should know about?
One topic to the next. So this is, of course, hitting Minnesota in a big way. We are #1 for turkey production. We are right up there with chickens and cattle and the like. And as we know, the first spread of avian flu was focused much more on birds, and now it is spreading. And we have called on the administration to take this on in a big way. This is affecting consumer prices. As you know, the price of eggs is very high, and it has affected a lot of other things in our economy. So what has happened is that the Secretary of Agriculture has actually put out a plan and did put resources into this, and we've been pushing her to make sure that keeps going. One of my concerns is that the plan did not really include, it was about chickens and eggs, which comes first, but it was about that. But it was not about turkeys coming first. And turkeys, cattle, and a lot of the producers of those, of turkeys and cattle and other wildlife. It can affect birds, by the way. It can affect eagles, are really concerned that we need to do more. And so while she has put a chunk of money into this and is starting some programs, we need a better long-range plan. And we're going out to talk to turkey producers in Wilmer, Minnesota's turkey capital, to discuss that today of what else we should do.
And I would just lastly point out, this is another example of incompetence on the part of the new administration, because they actually let go people who were studying avian influenza. They actually let the people go who were working on the bird flu. So
But then they rehired them.
And then they rehired them. So the level of incompetence, I helped lead a business for 22 years right here in Minnesota. Any CEO in America would have been fired already for the level of incompetence that we're seeing in running the country. And this is coming from one of the most bipartisan members of Congress that you're going to see on the House side. But the level of incompetence here is truly stunning.
Mm-hmm. Examples of, okay, I'm too much into avian flu. I'll talk about it later.